Empowa is a project that is building homes, affordable, sustainable homes in Africa for people that really need it. A lot of these countries, such as Mozambique, have really high interest rates. And Glenn in this interview actually points out that there are only 600 mortgages in the entire country at the moment. It's kind of hard to believe. And these people don't have access to these mechanisms. A lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the back-end stuff that you need to actually have a mortgage just aren't there, and it's not possible. But Empowa are putting that infrastructure in place and making it all possible with their lease to own program to buy and own these sustainable homes. They actually have a waiting list for their waiting list for homes at the moment, which is absolutely incredible. We talk about the impact of what their program actually could have on the continent in Africa and making homes affordable for people. They also talk about their impact cards, this NFT series that they've released to raise more funds, and they've teamed up with World Mobile for this one as well. So they go into all the details around that as well. Now I'm actually also playing around with a new intro clip here. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Right, let's get into this interview. I have two awesome guests joining me on this episode from the team of Empowa. I have Glenn joining me as well as Greg. Greg, first time on the podcast, welcome. But we've had you guys on before. We've talked about Empowa and some of the awesome things that you guys are doing. But Glenn, could you give everyone that doesn't know about Empowa just that really quick 30-second elevator pitch of what you guys are trying to do?
Sure. Our intention is to provide affordable home loans for people who are financially excluded, with a particular focus on Africa. And obviously we're utilizing the new technologies in order to be able to do that and to be able to fundamentally transform the financial systems that just don't work for the vast majority of the world's population.
And if anyone wants to find out more about that, you can check out the previous interviews. We delved deep into all the issues that are happening around the world in terms of interest rates, building processes and everything else. So it's a really interesting interview there. But since I've had you guys on last, a lot has happened, and I'd like to dig into find out exactly what has happened and this new partnership that you guys have done with World Mobile as well. So it's pretty exciting to hear about this. So can we get just a quick recap and an outline of what's happened since January? You had your token sale as well, so a lot has happened for you guys.
Sure. Maybe I can talk a bit to that and to the World Mobile partnership. So yeah, the beginning of the year saw us launch and close. We already had set the intention during the token sale to grow our audience, to enable people to support Empowa, even if they, financially had limited means. So we opened up a token sale with quite a low cap at how many of our tokens you could purchase, and a very low minimum at the most early entry point. I think people from $2.50 were able to participate in our token sale. So we were proud to say that at the end, once we closed off, we had 4,200 new unique community members who had supported our project, and we'd finally raised enough capital from, actually it was interesting, the smallest supporter purchased $7.50 worth of the Empowa token, so really getting in their grassroots. And so between our ISPO and our token sale, we had raised enough capital to kind of move forward with building out the platform, and so that's been one of the main focuses from the first part of most of this year. We also, alongside that, started to reach out to partners. We spearheaded an initiative called Blockchain for Good, which was a collective, or is a collective, of projects across multiple blockchains who are trying to make a positive social impact whilst at the same time run a profitable business. And within that collective, World Mobile was one of our first partners, and we started a conversation. Understand a bit more about their business, how it operated. They understood a bit more about our business and what we were working towards. And of course, both of us shared the mission of trying to bring affordable resource to Africa. When we were getting ready to break ground and start our Mozambique project, we were speaking to Andrew, that was our main contact at the time at World Mobile, and talking to him a bit about the challenges and how we were constantly on phone calls with our team in Mozambique, and they would drop and it would be poor quality and all the usual stuff that happens with internet that's just not up to standard. And that obviously piqued Andrew's interest, and he started to explore how Mobile could roll out their solution into Mozambique and if there was a need. And there very much was. I mean, internet connectivity across fixed line in Mozambique sits at about 22%, I think it is. When you include 3G internet, that only goes up to about 30%, and internet's ridiculously unaffordable across the country. So we saw a unique opportunity to really use our NFT sale. So for people who kind of have watched back the first interview, or maybe who are familiar with the project, in essence, Empowa sells NFT collections that then finance the homes that we build. So we saw a unique opportunity with this first NFT release to finance affordable housing development in Africa, but also to build the infrastructure that would allow World Mobile to roll out their internet connectivity first in Beira and ultimately within Mozambique. So yeah, we saw it as a way to really action the Cardano mission of real world impact with an Africa focus, and hence launched the RealFi NFT, and really claiming this until somebody proves us otherwise, in which case we'll say we were second, but we're claiming we launched the first NFT to finance affordable housing and decentralized internet across the continent, but definitely within Mozambique.
That's absolutely amazing. Definitely really good synergies in terms of partnership there between both the projects. Absolutely amazing that you guys did that and approached it that way. So what are the details of this? So I saw a brief tweet that came out with some of the details, but can you explain to the audience what you guys are trying to do with the NFT and fundraising to build these homes?
Yeah, so I mean, all our NFT collections really have kind of three core parts to what make them interesting and valuable to collectors. So when we release an NFT, we will partner with, maybe it's another Cardano-based project, maybe it's even a project outside of the Cardano ecosystem, be it an artist, to create value for our collectors. So we see that as critical to our success. The NFT should be something you want to own because of the utility it offers you, be that artistic, financial, etc. The second part to our NFTs is the reward that we give collectors for the impact that they're making. So at the start of the NFT sale, we project a conservative reward that we'll be able to give our NFT collectors over the course of the 10 years that represent the loan to the tenant on the ground. So importantly, the tenant on the ground rents the home for 10 years, leases the home for 10 years, and at the end of that period, they own the asset. That's the journey we try and take them on. So whilst we contract with the developer, the tenant will pay back the home and ultimately own it. And during that period, the collector will be rewarded for that impact that they're making with a projected monthly installment. And then finally, we are an earn with purpose business. We are an impact project. So we hope that those who support us put some value to the impact and the life-changing nature of what they're doing. So we kind of try and combine those three elements to create an NFT that we hope is collectible and interesting for the broader community, and then take those to market. So yeah, that's what we've done with World Mobile, and that's what we'll be doing. There's a few NFTs already planned for the rest, collections planned for the rest of the year with other partners who will have different utilities, right? Some will be art, some will be financial, etc.
That's a really interesting utility for the NFT. So did you say that you get paid monthly for the lease rental of the properties that were being built? Yeah.
So the tenant, what will happen is once the house is financed, the tenant moves in. Unfortunately, with these first NFTs, we refinanced the homes, and so tenants are. Yep. We had 30 homes that we did. We have a waiting list of 50 people, so we oversubscribed. It just speaks to the demand. Speaks to the demand of this model within Mozambique, and I think it's also worth noting that our audience is teachers, policemen, nurses. So it's that lower middle income consumer who, in many countries in the world would have an affordable home, but, in Mozambique they don't. So yeah, what will happen is we get that lease income each month, and we can then project how we can reward the NFT holder based on, from the funds collected.
I think just a reminder on that, Peter, if you recall correctly, there are about 600 mortgages in.
Yeah, I know that number was absolutely ridiculous. It was 600 in their entire.
Yeah, exactly. So that shows the dysfunctionality of the financial system. So I think the key part around this, and you see in terms of what already achieving, is transforming from a mortgage into a lease to own, which is one of the massive innovations because it's around looking forward. Because the whole challenge around the system is it constantly looks backwards. You have to have ID, proof of income, all of these things that don't exist. So how do we create this going forward? How do we create reputation? How do we create financial reputation? So these are key elements to what's happening here in terms of the first phase of these projects, of this project particularly, which is very, very important in terms of the transformation of the financial system and part of what we're experimenting with. And, we've done research and we're now testing some of these assumptions. And as Greg said, the fact that there's a waiting list for the waiting list already proves what we knew, but we need to prove is that there is this pent-up demand, this massive pent-up demand for affordable, finance for affordable housing. It's not that there's no money, it's that there's no systems and infrastructure and processes that enable that to flow correctly and properly. And the other thing is the interest rate is 25% on average across this region.
Which is ridiculous.
Exactly. So how do we reduce that? And that's why what Greg is speaking to, the value of what we create outside of just the financial extraction, or interest is so important. And that's the key part around what we're seeking to achieve.
I think one of the things Glenn spoke to, and it reminds me of a story that I always smile when I think about it. Basically, Richard, our CEO of Caswell, our on-the-ground building partner, when it came to advertising these homes, he didn't need to. He was actually a bit anxious about going to public with it for fear of the long waiting lists and people coming to the office to try and apply, etc. So he really let out a small number of application forms to a select group of people, and that was kind of how he planned on trying to sell these first 30 homes. What he didn't budget on, though, was his daughter, who went to school and did a show and tell, and as part of the show and tell, had to explain what her dad did for a living. And so, as best as a 7-year-old can picture a house, she went and presented, and her teacher, kind of obviously a bit dubious that here was her father building affordable housing, and under such good terms, reached out to Richard and said, how much of this was elaboration by your 7-year-old? And he said, well, no, that's pretty accurate. And so Richard's daughters sold one of the homes, and in fact, that teacher then went on and told a colleague who also bought a home, and now there's conversations with the school around potentially, more of the teachers purchasing homes and some arrangement where they're taken off their salaries before, etc. But I think and this is no judgment on Richard's daughter, but when a 7-year-old can sell 2 homes in show and tell in a class, the demand is far outstrips supply, and there's something fundamentally broken, right? So it's always crazy. We've got photos of her house that the thumbs up. We're gonna have to get some commission for sure.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Did she get commission?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course. If you sell the house, you get your crumbs.
That's an absolutely amazing story. I should definitely clip that one and use it as a short. That's absolutely amazing. Now, there's a couple of things that come out of this. A couple of questions I'd like to be clarified. So one is, with these NFT sales, how much money do you think you're going to raise? And with that money, how many homes can you build? I'm trying to imagine the amount of impact that you could actually create out of that.
Houses, at least that we finance, that's not exclusively where your return comes from. For collectors, their return is generated from the platform as a whole. But in the example of mobile housing development, we were looking to raise $300,000, which would then finance 30 homes. So you can work on about $10,000 per home. the crazy statistic is that increases the loan market in Mozambique by 5% off a very low base. So that's so you get numbers like that, but still a scary concept. So that's that particular collection. What we were very grateful for is that prior to launching the collection, we secured an underwriter, Next Shamir, which are quite well known in the Cardano ecosystem, early involvement in IOH, Mogo, etc. So we went into the sale knowing that we were able to, and we were going to sell out. We already sold them out, hence the underwriter. So yeah, the sale's been ongoing. It's been going very well. But once we close it off, any unsold NFTs will go to the underwriter. And actually, we're in conversation with them to really start to support some of our future NFT sales. So part of, I suppose.
Very, very interesting. Okay. And the other question I had around this is because there's some payments to the NFT holder from the rental payments from the person. Is there like legals around securities with this? Like how do you get around those aspects? And if there are issues with securities, then how do you get around the legals for people in the US and regulation and whatnot? So what's the story behind that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And we've worked really hard at ensuring that it's not a financial instrument. So the way we've structured it is to ensure that it is not. And so the whole principle is based on effectively the investment that you're putting in to try and maintain that as a return, and anything over and above that is a reward. So in fact, it's like air miles or something that can be used ubiquitously that is not in fact financial. So that's the way we've structured it in order to ensure that we don't fall foul of securities legislation, that it can't be defined as a security. In terms of that's the intention and what we're seeking to do, because the whole thing around it, as we said, is it isn't a security because there's actually no direct link. That's the whole objective. We're trying to create this disconnect. What we're trying to do is reward, absolutely, and create value. That's key, but it's not directly related. Because if it were, we just fall back into the same model, which is the model that doesn't work, which is why there's 25, 30% interest rates, because there's currency risk, etc., etc. So the whole thing around utilizing these new tools is to find mechanisms that separate this out so that we can create new mechanisms to create reward, but that is not a direct link between here's an investment and here's my return. Because if I do that, then we're just back to square one. So that's what we're working with, is how to structure this, how to create how do we maximize reward without extracting that from the ground. That's a key part of what we're doing, is how do we maximize that reward? How do we create as much value as we can for those impact investors? So those three elements that Greg has highlighted are so important, each element, to keep creating value for collectors while not taking that off. So just a portion of that is the financial part, which is a return. So it's not directly related, therefore not a financial.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot of legal counsel to get us to that point. But that whole, just to reiterate, that whole idea of creating value that's not extractive on the ground is so unique to Web3, right? If we had done this in a traditional way, the only way to produce a return would have been to create an interest rate for the tenant of the ground that is interesting for an investor once they factor in cost of capital, inflation, etc., etc. Web3 and a product like an NFT, people I think maybe think of an NFT exclusively as just a JPEG, right? People know that the technology has got so much more to offer than that. So we can really start to create value that for you as a collector is interesting and enticing, but doesn't really impact the person on the ground. I mean, if, for example, NFT provided you something additional in a metaverse at some point, you as a collector might say, well, that's really valuable, I would like to own that. But that value is created without a tie interest on the rate on the ground. If we went to a DeFi partner and increased the yield that one would get in a stake pool or yield farm, as an example, that's got real quantifiable value. It's not dependent on the person on the ground per se. Same with an artwork. If we partnered with a really famous artist who was willing to, or even an an artist who was willing to create great artwork that resonated with the audience, that had rarity. It would create value that you as a collector would want, but isn't tied to the ground. So it's really trying to combine a bunch of worlds. It's the values that NFTs create with the rewards for making impact, and then being able to set a product that people would want to own, feel value in owning, get a return and a reward for owning, but is not exclusively dependent on a payment.
Peter, also I think one of the very interesting things is, for the very first time, we're able to build an ecosystem outside of the nation state. And this is what's important for us and the model going forward, because all of this is just laying foundations for the success of the platform. So the more successful the platform is, the more investment we can create into this ecosystem, the more housing we get on the ground, the more impact we have, the more returns we generate. So it becomes a virtuous cycle. And that's the key part around what we're able to do, because traditionally, if I'm a US dollar investor and I'm investing into Mozambique, I'm at the whim of a nation state that we know is mismanaged. That's why it has interest rates of 30%. That's why it has all these financial systems that don't work. These are the things we know. So the whole thing around that is how are we able to create a layer of separation for this process? And this is one of the really exciting things around RealFi that we're able to do, that we really are pushing the boundaries in terms of the new creation of these ecosystems outside of nation states. Because now when you're investing into this NFT in Mozambique, that's just a portion of what you're actually doing. That's, it's the whole ecosystem you're investing into. And so actually your rewards and returns are related across all the projects and all the content, across the continent. So all of those things are now, so it starts to mitigate risk, it starts to mitigate currency risk, so all of these things start to put in place. And that's what we're experimenting with. That's the boundaries that we're pushing just in the entire platform, which is part of the exciting progress and what we're able to do with the tech.
Absolutely crazy. It's amazing that, like you said, the boundaries that you're trying to push and moving cross borders and not relying on nation states and their control or whatever it is that they're doing to prop up their economies and keep them going. Now, I know you guys have progressed a lot and you've built homes. Is that correct? You already have some homes on the ground, and I've seen some footage of this. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys have actually achieved already with what you've built?
Yeah, so it's been a real journey. I mean, when we kind of first got Catalyst funding, we kind of said to the community we would try to build one home. We ended up building 4, and to be honest with you, even that was a journey, right? We built 2 versions of a home, one built in brick, one built in wood. We wanted to test with the community which was going to be more attractive to them. The wood was, kind of carbon neutral. The one with brick was, all our homes are sustainably built, so I think about 20 or 30% below the usual carbon footprint of construction. And we learned some lessons there, right? The community didn't respond well to the wooden homes for a bunch of nuanced reasons I'm happy to get into, are driven, and we got that. And so we then took those lessons and built out an additional 30 homes, with some to follow, definitely some more to follow before the end of the year. And again, that was the journey of trying to get capital into Mozambique. And here again, I think Web3 really comes to the rescue. We needed to get the funds into Mozambique in order to be able to pay workers on the ground. We're a RealFi project, right? We can't. We're not going to have a Mozambican laborer working for any token. Even a USDC is going to be is not going to have any value to them.
Yeah.
Mozambique has very limited crypto infrastructure, so the on-ramps and off-ramps are almost non-existent. So we had to do that journey of working with local partners to enable that. And what was really interesting is we sent an amount of money to Casa to start the project that was quite similar to an amount sent to them by an NGO. That NGO actually had to send the funds 6 months prior, because that's how long it took for for the capital to get through the Mozambican central bank. And that's maybe inefficiencies, maybe that's, obviously I'm not here to speculate, but you can imagine if you're trying to deliver on a project and the capital you need to do that is delayed by 6 months, what that does to your business. Sadly, people had to be laid off, projects were delayed, homeowners were forced to wait until 6 months. It's not conducive to running an efficient business. We sent the same amount of money through the Cardano blockchain, and we had it in Caswell's bank account in 3 days. I wish we could have recorded that first phone call with Richard, CEO at Caswell, around his excitement. And we fortunately have a recording of this where he says, if all Empowa did, if their whole business was just moving capital this quickly, if that was it, you guys would be made as a business.
It would make a huge difference.
Unfortunately, we're to be a little bit more ambitious than that. But it just again talks about, I think for so many in the developed economies, and look, Glenn's originally from Zimbabwe, moved to South Africa. I'm originally from South Africa, a recent, I suppose, immigrant to the Netherlands. So I'm based here for the last 18 months. But I think, and of course, Africa is even more further advanced in places like Mozambique, some of the areas that we're targeting. But, I think so many of us take for granted simple things like, I click pay, money arrives. I need to pay a friend based in Portugal. You just pay, and the money arrives. It just happens, right? You apply for a home loan, you get 100% the capital you need for 1 or 2%. It's I was a bit kind of taken aback almost when you come here and you realize, how things can run and then how things do run. And so, it's all been part of the journey. We're very proud to say that we actually have created homes. Families are moving in. Impact has been made and will continue to be made. And for now it's Mozambique, but the intention is, and we've already started to explore with partners in Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa. So we launch our market right at the tail end of the year or early next year. Again, it's important for us to have diversified our development because that diversifies the impact and diversifies the risk. Ultimately, the EMP token, which is what people are rewarded in, that is underpinned by the homes on the ground. And I don't know if we can have them all in Mozambique, at least by something, but obviously having them across the continent, and different developments with different development partners, it only further de-risks the model.
And Peter, also just to add to impact, one of the things around Beira is it's one of the most climate impacted cities in the world because it's right on the Mozambican channel. And so now cyclones have become an almost annual event. So you can imagine for people who have to self-build their homes, if a cyclone comes through, they not only lose their home, they lose everything in it. So the resilience, the impact of this kind of thing on the family, we can't even measure the impact because it's not just the home, it's not just the roof over their heads, it's safety, it's resilience, it's the ability to study better. All of the research shows that school marks go up. So the ability to learn, the ability to improve themselves. You add in World Mobile Internet. Now we've got access to affordable internet for the kids to be able to study, to be able to do their homework. The impact is going to be measurable in 20 years' time. And that's the momentum, that's the impact that we're having. And that's one of the key things that we're trying to say is, how do you measure that? I wish I could bottle it and sell it because it's every time we do that and you see a family and you see the excitement of the family and the age, we've dropped the age because it's a mortgage. You've got to save for a home if you want a home like this. Now you don't have to save. So the age has come down so kids can get access to this kind of house. So, the impacts are just almost immeasurable, but it's all part of the building blocks of what we're seeking to achieve. Absolutely amazing.
All right. You've sold me. How do I get an NFT?
So the World Mobile NFT, depending when this podcast goes out, should still be on sale, and that will be purchased through our website. It's priced at 250 ADA and then 50, which is the transaction fee, which is paid in our token. So those can be purchased directly off the website. We do have, I suppose, still want to finalize the details, so maybe I'm going to have to wangle another opportunity to speak about this at a later stage, but we are already lining up our next project with a different partner, and that's important for us. I mean, I think realistically for Empowa, we may always have two NFT collections ongoing at the same time, and that's because there's different utilities. So we appreciate that collectors have different reasons to purchase the NFT beyond the impact and beyond the rewards. So we are to maybe DeFi, maybe something like what we've done with the World Mobile project. But for now, it's the World Mobile Empowa collab NFT. It's purchased off our website. Go to the top of the page. In Empowa.com, you'll see NFT sale, and it's fairly straightforward. Connect your wallet, and you can purchase one. And then, I suppose you can lay claim to being one of the people who enable the first powered homes and DeFi to roll out across the continent. And if we continue our mission and we begin to, there's a 15 million home backlog across the continent. We probably won't finance all 50 million, but we'll do our best to take a big chunk of that. So you'll hopefully be able to look back and say, have verifiable proof that you were number one, or part of the first group to.
Well, this is absolutely amazing, guys. And, to be a part of one of the first ones ever to make this kind of impact and have these homes built and make an affordable option for so many that don't have access to one of these financial instruments, being able to afford a home affordably is absolutely amazing. So I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes so that if anyone wants to find out more information or even purchase one of these NFTs and create some of this impact, they can find out all the information there. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode and going through all this. It's been really good to hear the updates and the progress that you guys are doing and these new partnerships and the impact that you guys are making in the world.
Thanks for your support, Peter. And for us, obviously, the whole objective is to get the story out. And so the more we can get the story out, the more people can understand what we're seeking to achieve, the more we can develop the ecosystem. So really, your support is appreciated. Thanks very much.
So all the links and references for you guys in the show notes down below. You'll be able to find them on our website, learncardano.io/EP055, episode 55. And you'll be able to get more information about the NFT, the impact cards that they've teamed up with World Mobile for, along with everything else about the project too. And if you want to see that full promo video, the segments that I took out for this one, you'll be able to see that too. All the links in the show notes. Now, if you really enjoyed the content, please consider giving me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click the notification bell. I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.